What's up, everybody? I am SlimmDa KID, and this is a very special podcast of Round 2 Wrestling. With 2022 effectively behind us and 2023 right in front of us, we thought it was appropriate to bring to you a State of the Sport special here on Round 2 Wrestling. Some of you may be asking, what is State of the Sport? Just like a State of the Union or State of the State speech brought to you by the President of the United States or your local governor. This is a general synopsis as to the present state of pro wrestling and what we here at Round 2 Wrestling consider to be positive and negative from 2022. We also want to highlight some of these highs and lows of the year and give our personal opinions as to where we think this sport is at the beginning of 2022 and how it was left at the end of 2022. So, without further ado, let's jump into the State of the Sport special. Alright, pro wrestling in general for 2022 was eventful, both in a positive way and in a negative way. Overall, I and others here at Round 2 Wrestling believe the sport has elevated in some ways in 2022, but at the same time, a few steps were taken back. Both domestically and internationally, pro wrestling finally saw a return to normalcy. 2 years after the COVID pandemic that shook the world to its core back in 2022. This is particularly true in Japan, where it seems like COVID hit that country the hardest. Japan is also well known for their highly sensitive attitude towards cleanliness and sanitary living. So it is no surprise that we saw Japan take the longest to return to normalcy. However, in a more recent episode of Round 2 Wrestling, I, SlimmDa KID, made the announcement because the information was given to me that Wrestle Kingdom, brought to you by New Japan Pro Wrestling, was going to allow international fans for the first time in 2 years. The United States, Mexico, Canada, and other countries opened their borders almost a year ago, and Japan is just now doing that. So this is excellent and also promotes the sport in a positive way in the land of the rising sun. From WWE to GCW, every promotion across the world had its highs and lows in 2022. We here at Round 2 Wrestling are going to look back on a few of the more memorable highlights and moments from the professional wrestling world. To start things off, one of the hottest wrestlers of the 90s and early 2000s made his much anticipated in-ring return. Stone Cold Steve Austin returned to the ring after a 19-year absence. He fought Kevin Owens at WrestleMania earlier this year in April and won before stepping away from the squared circle once again. Whether or not we will see the Rattlesnake in the ring again in any sort of capacity has yet to be seen. However, it is this announcer's personal opinion that what you got this year was the last of an active Rattlesnake in the ring. I am sure he will be back in WWE in some sort of capacity, but his days of in-ring competitions are over. And if you go back and look at this particular match, it wasn't so much of a match as it was a good way to send off one of the most popular and iconic wrestlers in WWF/WWE history. Top WWE women's wrestlers Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of WWE and Monday Night Raw earlier this year, with Naomi returning later on. Sasha Banks was released by WWE. However, Sasha Banks is set to make a return to the wrestling world by making an appearance or wrestling in some sort of capacity at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 17 here in the upcoming weeks. WWE in particular had a tumultuous year. It started out very poorly for this particular promotion, and things only got worse until about mid-2022 when a giant course correction was made, and the ship has seemed to be righted in WWE. Not that there was any sort of danger of WWE failing in any sort of capacity, at least not immediately, but things were not right until the necessary changes were made, and those will be discussed later on in this State of the Sports special here on Round 2 Wrestling. AEW Executive Vice President Cody Rhodes gets no AEW contract extension in 2022 and returns to WWE after 3 years and after burying the promotion at every opportunity given. A big injury, a pectoral injury, put the American Nightmare on injured reserve for most of 2022. So what we saw of Cody Rhodes in WWE was in a very limited capacity. It has been announced and touted and rumored that Cody Rhodes will have a world title shot against Roman Reigns in some sort of capacity at the upcoming WrestleMania in 2023. However, none of this is actual factual news. These are just rumors and speculations. It's speculated that Roman Reigns is supposed to defend both his titles on both nights of WrestleMania, one against Cody Rhodes and one against The Rock. Again, whether or not this will come to light has yet to be seen. However, we must emphasize that Cody Rhodes has been on IR for most of 2022. Nothing against Cody Rhodes. I liked him when he was in AEW, but I don't think he deserves any sort of world title shot in any sort of capacity since he hasn't wrestled since at least SummerSlam 2022. The summer of CM Punk never happened in 2022 due to CM Punk sustaining an injury at the beginning of the summer. Jon Moxley carried the AEW load until the AEW All Out pay-per-view in September of 2022, where Punk would win the AEW World title, and then the infamous Brawl Out at All Out took place after the pay-per-view. This resulting brawl out would result in several people being suspended from AEW, some indefinitely, some for a few weeks, others for months. These parties included in the brawl were CM Punk himself, the Elite, several executives and producers, and a dog to some capacity were involved in this brawl out from All Out. Again, several of these wrestlers were suspended for most of 2022, with several of the bigger names coming back this past fall, i.e. The Elite and Kenny Omega. CM Punk has not been formally released by AEW, but they also have not used him in any capacity since this particular incident. All info regarding CM Punk to ties with AEW, graphics of CM Punk in AEW have been removed. However, merchandise is still available from AEW about CM Punk. So this draws many speculations that Punk is with AEW in some sort of capacity, either sitting out the rest of his contract or simply waiting for that phone call to be brought back onto live TV. The biggest news of 2022 was, of course, the retirement of WWE owner and CEO Vince McMahon amid allegations of sexual misconduct and payoffs by the head of WWE. This had effects across the wrestling world in more ways than one. Before his firing, wrestlers were leaving in droves from NXT and WWE due to the poor leadership and management by Vince McMahon. Also, nobody wants to work for a 70-year-old pervert who is being accused of sexual misconduct and then covering it up with hush money because he's a millionaire and he can do that. When the announcement was made that WWE had released Vince McMahon from his position as owner and CEO of WWE and had instead instilled Triple H Paul Levesque as the head and CEO of WWE, WWE has seen a significant rebound, both in ticket sales, viewership, wrestlers wanting to leave the indies and come back and work for them, or leave other promotions and come back to WWE in some sort of capacity. This was probably the best move WWE has made in a while. However, the last part of 2022 has seen several rumors of Vince McMahon being brought back into the fold of WWE into some sort of capacity. The absolute garbage news that this is has brought down stocks within WWE, and they have promptly stopped making any sort of noise about some sort of return by Vince McMahon. Whether or not WWE recovers fully from this, or it's just a temporary thing before slipping back into a slow but steady downfall, has yet to be seen. Several other bits of information that took place in 2022 that left the sport of professional wrestling better off than it left it was AEW owner Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor out from everybody. Nobody saw this coming, and nobody really knew that there was a bidding war for Ring of Honor. But when Tony Khan announced that he had come out on top, this also shocked several people in the professional wrestling world, particularly WWE, who has gotten into the habit of buying up any promotion it can get its greedy little hands on and then promoting it on its own network or on a streaming service owned exclusively by WWE. Ric Flair had his last match, and no, we are not kidding about that, earlier this year. His last match took place Sunday, July 31st, of mixed reviews. Ric Flair is a 16-time world champion, but is also 70-something years old and had not wrestled in several years. A tag team match was brought to him, and he absolutely jumped all over it. Jay Lethal, Andrade El Idolo, Ric Flair, and another took Ric Flair's last match to another level. However, thank God it was his last match, because the sport of professional wrestling will be better off without Ric Flair in the ring every single decade. Alright, I am SlimmDa KID, and this was our State of the Sport special here on Round 2 Wrestling. Again, we brought you some of the highs and lows across the professional wrestling world. Some of it helped elevate the promotion or the sport in some sort of way. In other ways, the news that we brought you helped drag it down just a little bit. But professional wrestling is a fickle beast and always seems to make up for its shortcomings somehow, some way. Once again, I am SlimmDa KID. Thank you for tuning in to this Round 2 Wrestling State of the Sports special. Be sure to listen to our Round 2 Wrestling podcast and get caught up on all your rumors, news, and results from the world of professional wrestling. We wish you a happy new year and look forward to bringing you many more episodes in 2023.